Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the most powerful concepts from the metabolic revolution framework and really see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
We do. We don't just scratch the surface. We really try to drill down into the biochemistry, the history, and some of the shocking contradictions of modern health.
And this week, we have saved something that is, I think, truly foundational for you.
It's a deep dive that looks back, not forward.
Yeah.
Into the instinctive, successful wisdom that guided generations before all this optimization, before the apps, before all the complicated protocols.
That's so right. The setup here is simple, but it's incredibly powerful, and it immediately highlights this paradox we're all living in. We're looking at what our grandmothers knew just instinctively about health, these practices that just defy all the modern, restrictive, and frankly exhausting health trends.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this contradiction. Modern life offers endless information, optimization protocols, biohacks, yet people are metabolically broken.
My 30 sometimes.
Exactly. Exhausted, gaining weight on 1,200 calories, constantly sick. It's a mess.
It's what we call the great devolution away from successful traditions.
Mm-hmm.
For decades, we've been, conditioned to believe that everything our ancestors did was wrong.
Right, based on flawed science.
Flawed or just incomplete science. And yet, as we dive into bioenergetics, this idea that energy production is the core of health, we find that this traditional wisdom is confirmed by some of the most cutting-edge cellular science.
So it's not just nostalgia?
Not at all. We like to call it biochemistry dressed in an apron.
I love that. Okay, before we unpack the specifics, let's quickly define that framework for everyone listening. When you say bioenergetics, what does that mean in simple terms?
In simple terms, the bioenergetic view, and this was largely popularized by the work of Dr. Ray Peat, it basically says that health and disease all come from one place.
Cellular energy production.
Cellular energy production. Specifically, the function of your mitochondria. If your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, are working well, your body is warm, your digestion is good, your hormones are balanced.
You can handle stress?
You can handle stress, you can detoxify, all the things we think of as problems, inflammation, hormonal imbalance, weight gain, they're not the cause of illness.
They're consequences.
They're the consequences of not having enough energy, of a suppressed metabolism and chronic cellular stress.
So it completely flips the script. It's not about fighting inflammation first. It's about fueling the body so it can produce energy, repair itself, and then naturally suppress all that stress and inflammation.
Precisely. And that brings us right back to our grandmothers. I mean, look at the scale of their success. They cooked in lard, they ate 3 full meals a day. They never counted a single macro.
And they lived to 94 without a cabinet full of prescriptions.
Exactly. Their hands were warm, they had endless energy, because they were following these traditions that supported a high-energy state.
And the fascinating part is that their rules completely oppose modern diet culture. Let's set the hook with just a couple of these big contrasts.
Okay.
First one, she didn't fast. Not ever. She had a huge breakfast every single morning. That was the signal of safety that kept her metabolism roaring.
And the second one, which is maybe the most controversial today, she didn't fear sugar.
No.
She baked pies, she made jams with real sugar, she put it in her coffee, her tea, and yet diabetes was a rarity. It wasn't the epidemic we have today.
So what did she know that we forgot? The answer, as we're about to explore, is, well, it's everything.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack these principles one by one. I think we have to start with how she approached protein, because that reveals this intuitive understanding of amino acid balance that modern science is only just now catching up to.
Perfect place to start.
Today, when you say protein, what do people picture?
The skinless chicken breast.
A boneless, skinless chicken breast.
Okay.
Or a scoop of, highly processed protein powder. The focus is on maximum grams of pure muscle meat. My grandmother would have been baffled by that. Her approach was holistic. The entire animal was a nutritional resource.
It was meant to sustain the family for days or weeks. And this was rooted in, thrift and necessity. But it turns out it was perfectly engineered nutrition.
Okay, so let's get specific. What did she actually use?
Well, you have to start with the foundation. Bone broth. It wasn't some specialty item you bought in a carton at a health food store.
No, it was just there, simmering on the stove.
Always, sometimes for 2 days. And you're extracting every mineral, every compound, and most importantly, the gelatin. That broth was the base for everything.
Soups, sauces, gray
Rice, everything. It was seen as medicine and nourishment in every single bowl.
Okay, and what about the skin and the connective tissue? I know so many people today who peel the skin off a roast chicken. They think it's fattening.
And that is such a huge missed opportunity from a bioenergetic view. The crispy skin, the fatty connective tissue, the cartilage, these were prized. They're loaded with collagen and gelatin. They were never wasted.
And the organs.
We can't forget the organs: liver, heart, kidneys, tongue. These were eaten regularly, maybe once a week, because, as the old folks said, they build blood or they're good for yours.
And they have nutrients you just can't get from muscle meat.
You can't. Unique clusters of bioavailable vitamins.
Okay, that sounds like a lovely traditional way to eat, but connected to the science for us. Why is this nose-to-tail approach so much better than our modern muscle meat-obsessed diet? What's the mechanism here?
It all comes down to amino acid composition and balance. Our current diet, without us even realizing it, has created this profound nutritional imbalance.
How so?
Muscle meat, so lean beef, poultry, those protein powders, they are exceptionally high in three specific amino acids: methionine, tryptophan, and cysteine.
And what's the problem with those?
Well, in this model, when you eat them in excess without something to balance them out, they become stress-promoting and inflammatory.
Really?
Yeah, they take a lot of metabolic effort to process, they use up your B vitamins, and they contribute to the body's overall stress response system.
So if you're just pounding chicken breast and protein shakes, you are literally overwhelming your system with stress-promoting compounds.
That's it, precisely.
Yeah.
Now, here is where grandmother's wisdom is so brilliant. The traditional solution was gelatin.
From the bones and the skin.
From the bones, the skin, the connective tissues, gelatin is exceptionally rich in the simplest amino acid, glycine. And glycine is the crucial, gentle counterbalance to those high levels of methionine and cysteine.
So the goal isn't just to eat a lot of protein, it's to eat the right ratio of proteins.
Exactly. When you eat muscle meat alongside gelatin like a pot roast with that rich bone broth gravy, you get metabolic harmony. Glycine is anti-inflammatory, it's calming, it supports the liver. It basically mitigates all the potential downsides of the stressful aminos.
That imbalance you mentioned, the modern excess of methionine, I've heard that linked to cellular aging, right?
It is. The critical implication here is that these imbalances are believed to literally accelerate aging at the cellular level. There is robust, if, controversial research on this, specifically studies on methionine restriction. They've shown incredible lifespan extension, up to 40% in some animal models, just by limiting this one amino acid.
That's a powerful idea. So our modern diet is structured in a way that actively pushes the body toward those pro-aging signals.
It is.
While the traditional diet, just by including gelatin, naturally achieved that protective anti-aging balance without even trying, without any restriction at all.
That is the key. Your grandmother's pot roast didn't just taste better because of the gravy. The gravy, which was rich in glycine, made sure that the muscle meat, rich in methionine, was used in a balanced, anti-stressful way. It was naturally anti-aging nutrition.
We've just completely lost sight of gelatin. Beyond balancing the aminos, what other benefits does it have?
Oh, several huge ones. First, it's incredibly powerful for gut health. It helps to seal and repair the gut lining.
Which so many people have issues with today.
Right. Second, glycine is a major component the liver uses for detoxification, what's called phase 2 conjugation. It literally helps the liver neutralize and eliminate toxins, excess hormones, all of it.
So when your system is dealing with stress or inflammation, glycine is what the liver uses to clean up the mess.
Absolutely. And it's also a calming, inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. It supports deep, restorative sleep. It balances the entire stress response. And of course, it's the building block for joints, hair, skin elasticity.
The irony is just, it's hard to ignore. People today spend a fortune on these expensive industrial collagen powders to get what our grandmothers just had simmering on the back of the stove.
And the homemade broth often has minerals and a complexity of micronutrients the powder just doesn't have.
So the solution is simple, but it requires a change in routine.
Eat the whole animal. Use the bones. Make broth a staple. It's a return to foundational, proven human nourishment.
I think that's a big challenge for people. We've been taught this stuff is either gross or just too much work.
But once you understand the profound bioenergetic benefit, it shifts from being a chore to a non-negotiable metabolic priority.
Exactly. Okay, let's move from what she ate to what she cooked with, because this is maybe the single most contentious topic in modern nutrition fad.
This section, I believe, addresses the single biggest systemic failure of modern dietary advice. Over the last 50 years, we were pushed to replace these protective traditional fats with what the bioenergetic framework views as Well, anti-metabolic poisons.
Yeah, when you picture your grandmother's kitchen, the fats were simple. They were solid, they were stable, lard for pie
The
crusts,
flakiest pie crusts ever.
butter on everything, tallow for high heat frying, like for fried chicken,
Yeah.
or, depending on the culture, schmaltz, coconut oil.
And the absolutely critical point here is that she never, ever touched the industrial seed oils. Canola, corn, soybeans, sunflower, safflower, all of
It's
it.
because they didn't exist.
They didn't exist in the human food chain. They were industrial lubricants, byproducts of the textile industry, or just considered waste until corporations figured out how to process, bleach, and deodorize them enough to sell them as food.
And the whole push to use them came under this banner of heart health, right? Promising to lower cholesterol.
That was the banner.
So why did the traditional fats work so well for our grandmothers, and why are these seed oils so problematic from a bioenergetic perspective?
It's all about chemical stability. Traditional fats, lard, butter, tallow, coconut oil, are primarily saturated fats. Their molecular structure is saturated with hydrogen, which means they have no double bonds. This makes them incredibly stable,
So they're safe for cooking.
very safe for cooking at high temperatures. They don't oxidize easily, they don't break down into toxic compounds like aldehydes, and they don't interfere with how your cells function.
But the polyunsaturated fats, the PUFAs, in seed oils are the complete opposite. They're highly unstable.
Exactly. PUFAs have multiple double bonds, which makes them incredibly vulnerable to oxidation from heat, light, even just from sitting on the shelf.
And that's a problem because when we eat them,
When we eat them, these unstable fats get incorporated directly into your cellular membranes, especially the inner membranes of your mitochondria.
so our cells are literally being built with shoddy, broken materials.
That's a perfect analogy. When your mitochondrial membrane is built with these unstable, oxidized fats, it gets rigid and leaky. It dramatically impairs mitochondrial respiration, the way your cell uses oxygen to make energy.
So it's a poison to the energy system.
This is why they're seen as anti-metabolic poisons. They suppress your thyroid function, they promote systemic inflammation, and they poison the cells by making efficient energy production basically impossible.
Okay, this is a huge point. For 50 years, we were warned that saturated fat caused heart disease. I mean, if someone listening has high cholesterol, isn't it irresponsible to tell them to start cooking in lard? How do we square that?
That's a necessary challenge. And the reconciliation lies in going back and looking at the foundational data, especially the famous Framingham Heart Study.
Right.
The original narrative that came out was that saturated fat caused heart disease. That became public dogma. But what was ignored or buried were the subsequent findings that contradicted that narrative.
What did they find?
They found that the people who consumed more saturated fat actually had less risk of heart disease and often lived longer.
Wait, they just ignored the data that didn't fit the hypothesis.
That is the tragic historical irony. The data didn't fit the emerging narrative, which, conveniently created a massive market for industrial seed oils.
Yeah.
Our grandmother's traditions were right. Saturated fat is protective, stable, and metabolically essential.
Wow. Okay, within this tradition, coconut oil has a special status, even among the other saturated fats. Why is that?
Coconut oil is unique because it's rich in medium-chain saturated fats, or MCTs. Most fats are long-chain, and they require a lot of digestive work. MCTs are different. They get absorbed rapidly, metabolized by the liver, and are immediately available for energy.
So it's like a high-octane fuel for your mitochondria.
Exactly. And this rapid fuel is known to help raise the overall metabolic rate. Plus, coconut oil has significant antimicrobial properties. It helps reduce harmful gut bacteria and the inflammatory burden of endotoxin, which is a huge contributor to metabolic slowdown.
So whether it was the grandmother in the Philippines using coconut oil or the one in Ireland using butter, they were both doing the same thing.
They were instinctively practicing metabolic medicine by choosing stable, supportive fats.
So the call to action here is clear, even if it's challenging. Eliminate all the industrial seed oils, canola, corn, soybeans, sunflower, all of it, and replace them with butter, coconut oil, lard, and tallow for all your cooking.
And if you use olive oil, just use it for cold things like salad dressings, where it's not going to get damaged by heat. This return to the fats of our grandparents is a monumental step toward restoring metabolic function.
That makes perfect sense. Now, let's move to the rhythm of eating, because the modern obsession with fasting stands in such stark contrast to the daily routine of our grandmothers.
Right, her schedule was all about consistency and nourishment. 3 square meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was rooted in biology. Eating when food is available signals safety and abundance.
And the modern myth is that you have to skip breakfast to burn fat. She did the complete opposite. She woke up and she ate. Eggs, bacon, toast with butter and jam, coffee with cream and sugar, a huge nutrient-dense
And
breakfast.
that hearty breakfast was a crucial metabolic signal. After fasting all night, your body needs replenishment. That meal tells the body the environment is safe, resources are abundant, and it's okay to turn the metabolic furnace on full blast.
She didn't wait until noon.
No, because she intuitively knew that nourishing herself immediately was vital.
Okay, explain the specific metabolic consequences of skipping that first meal. This is really the core of the bioenergetic argument against popular fasting.
When you skip breakfast, you're just prolonging the overnight stress state. Your body has to rely on stress hormones to keep your blood sugar stable.
So cortisol.
Cortisol, which naturally spikes in the morning to wake you up, stays elevated. It
Yeah.
keeps the body in a state of chronic alarm. At the same time, adrenaline has to kick in to compensate for crashing blood sugar because you haven't eaten.
So that feeling of, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm just running on coffee, that's actually just high adrenaline.
It's high adrenaline compensating for low fuel, exactly.
Okay.
And when those stress hormones are high, the body goes into immediate conservation mode.
And what does that look like in the body?
It looks like a suppressed metabolism. Your body starts burning fewer calories because it thinks there's a famine. It starts storing more fat as insurance. And critically, when your liver's glycogen stores are empty, it turns to a survival mechanism called gluconeogenesis.
Let's break that down.
Gluconeogenesis literally means making new sugar. When you skip meals, your body has to find glucose to fuel your brain. Since none is coming in, it starts breaking down your muscle tissue, your protein, to convert those amino acids into glucose.
So you're not just tired, you're forcing your body to eat its own muscle to survive.
It's incredibly catabolic and taxing. But when you eat that hearty breakfast, you suppress that morning cortisol, you stimulate thyroid hormone, you restore your liver glycogen, and you set a high, efficient metabolic rate for the entire day.
And that rhythm continued. Lunch wasn't a sad little salad at a desk.
No, in many traditional cultures, lunch was the main event, the largest meal of the day, substantial protein, cooked vegetables, often a soup made from that bone broth. It was designed to sustain you through the afternoon.
And dinner was calming, social, and they often had something sweet before bed, which is just heresy today.
And yet, there's a clear biological reason for it. A little bit of glucose before bed supports the production of serotonin, which is the precursor to melatonin, the hormone for deep restorative sleep.
So the whole structure just supports the body's natural cycles.
The modern trend of extended fasting is viewed so critically because it just sends this powerful signal of stress and scarcity to the body. Our grandmothers understood that food is fuel, it's nourishment, it's connection.
When you eat 3 regular substantial meals, your body doesn't panic. It just burns fuel efficiently because it knows more is coming. It trusts the rhythm.
The relevance for people today is huge. So many modern issues, cold hands and feet, exhaustion, weight gain on low calories, are classic signs of a metabolism slowed by restriction.
And returning to 3 regular meals often fixes those issues.
It does, because the body finally gets the signal of safety and abundance that it desperately needs. You move from fearing food to treating it as essential fuel.
That leads us perfectly into what was actually in those meals, the simplicity of the ingredients and the importance of how they were prepared.
Right. When you look at traditional diets anywhere in the world, the common theme is simplicity. Our grandmothers didn't rely on exotic superfoods from 12 different countries.
No, they ate what was local, what was seasonal, what was familiar. Rice in Asia, potatoes and dairy in Ireland, corn in Mexico, bread in Europe.
Exactly. Today, we're told to chase variety. Eat 20 different plants a day.
It's
This
that.
paradox of variety, but this can actually stress the gut.
How so?
Your digestive system, and especially your microbiome, it thrives on predictability. Your body's enzyme production calibrates to the foods you eat regularly. Constantly introducing new and varied ingredients forces the digestive system into a state of flux.
In flux equals stress.
It does. It can lead to fermentation in the gut, especially with complex fibers the body isn't used to. And that fermentation produces inflammatory endotoxin, bloating, and overall gut dysfunction.
So her boring, repetitive menu wasn't a limitation. It was actually a form of digestive wisdom. Potatoes, white rice, cooked corn, these were reliable, easily digested fuels.
Absolutely. The bioenergetic view favors these staple starches because they're clean fuel. They replenish liver glycogen without a lot of digestive effort. Simple is often superior.
Okay, beyond simplicity, the second great wisdom was preparation. We have this modern devotion to raw foods, raw kale salads, raw juices. But she cooked everything.
She boiled, baked, roasted, simmered. And there's deep evolutionary support for this. We are physically adapted to eat cooked food. Cooking dramatically increases the bioavailability of nutrients.
Our stomachs can't handle all that raw cellulose.
No, they can't. And then there's the issue of anti-nutrients.
Right, the plant's defense mechanisms.
Exactly. Compounds like phytates, oxalates, and goitrogens. Phytates bind to minerals like zinc and iron and prevent you from absorbing them. And goitrogens, found in tons of raw cruciferous vegetables like kale, can actively suppress your thyroid function.
So the raw food movement, while it's well-intentioned, often has people eating thyroid-suppressing, nutrient-binding compounds that work against their metabolism.
Precisely. Cooking neutralizes or dramatically reduces these anti-nutrients, making the food safer and more nourishing, and traditional cultures went even further.
With soaking and fermenting.
Yes, our grandmothers soaked beans and grains to break down phytic acid. They fermented cabbage into sauerkraut, dairy into yogurt. These were centuries of nutritional optimization designed to maximize nutrients and minimize digestive stress.
The conclusion is so powerful. Modern life, for convenience, has abandoned these traditional step-soaking, simmering, fermenting, and we've paid the price with widespread digestive issues.
The path back requires returning to simple digestible staples and preparing them properly. Cook your vegetables. Prepare your grains the traditional way. Stop chasing exotic foods and focus on the foundations that worked for millennia.
That connects perfectly to the last piece of the puzzle, which is the rhythm of her entire life, not just her meals. It was aligned with nature.
This really ties it all together. All the nutritional practices we just talked about were nested within a natural rhythm that we have completely, totally abandoned in our modern, climate-controlled, light-polluted world.
We live in this artificial bubble. Constant 72 degrees, constant light, food available 24/7. She lived by the sun and the seasons.
Let's start with one of the most powerful metabolic inputs, light exposure. She got morning sunlight, outside, gardening, hanging laundry, walking to the market. She exposed her eyes and skin to natural light when the day began.
And what does that do to our physiology when that morning light hits the retina?
That is the crucial trigger for the entire circadian rhythm. It stops melatonin production, telling the body to wake up. It stimulates that healthy, necessary morning spike in cortisol, a signal of activation and energy. And that synchronizes your thyroid hormone production.
So her body was naturally calibrated just by being outside.
Just by being in her environment. It's the opposite of our reality, waking up in darkness and going straight to a screen under fluorescent lights.
And the other end of the day is just as important, sleep and darkness.
She went to bed when it was dark. She wasn't getting hours of blue light from screens or bright indoor lighting after sunset.
And why is that evening darkness so critical for metabolism?
Because true darkness allows for the robust production of melatonin. Melatonin is critical for deep, restorative sleep. That's when metabolic repair and cellular cleanup happens. Artificial light at night suppresses melatonin and interferes with all those processes.
So by prioritizing darkness, she was automatically supporting her metabolic health.
Completely. And think about temperature. We live in a perfectly controlled climate. Her body experienced natural temperature variations, the chill of winter, the heat of summer.
And how does that help your metabolism?
It forces your metabolism to stay flexible and responsive. It encourages the body to do thermogenesis, to generate its own heat. A high metabolism means a warm body, warm hands, warm feet. That comes from burning fuel efficiently.
So the modern disconnect is just profound. We confuse our bodies with constant artificial cues. Constant light, constant temperature, constant food.
It's no wonder our internal calibration is completely lost. The return to health requires a conscious commitment to these rhythms. Prioritize morning light. Stick to consistent meal times. Reduce artificial light after sunset. And incorporate gentle, natural movement.
Things that were just automatic parts of her life. For us, they require conscious effort. But the payoff is immense.
It truly is. It's the simple operating manual we just threw away.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive. We've covered 5 huge topics, from amino acids to circadian rhythms, and the synthesis is just remarkable.
It really is.
Okay, let's synthesize everything. All the busted mix, all the complicated protocols we analyze, and just emphasize that the grandmother did it all instinctively. She never read a single study.
She instinctively avoided the polyunsaturated fats by cooking with stable, available fats like butter and lard. She embraced sugar-using desserts and preserved fruits without fire because she knew the body needs glucose for energy and repair.
She used salt generously. She knew it was necessary for her adrenals, for thyroid conversion. She ate moderate protein, but instinctively used the nose-to-tail approach to balance the stressful muscle meat with the calming glycine from gelatin.
She ate 3 square meals a day without fail, suppressing stress hormones and signaling safety and abundance to her metabolism. Her movement was gentle gardening, walking, housework, not these punishing bursts of inflammation. And she optimized her light and rest, rising with the sun and sleeping in true darkness.
And she did all of this without tracking a single calorie, macro, or step. She didn't need complicated biohacks. She just trusted her body and followed traditions that had worked for millennia.
And here's the final truth. This is the real revolution at the heart of the bioenergetic framework. All the complexity of modern health, the expensive supplements, the cutting-edge devices, the intricate diets, they're all just complex modern attempts to recreate the metabolic state our grandmothers achieved naturally and affordably.
We're spending billions of dollars to get back to the starting line.
That's it. The metabolic revolution is simplicity. It's not about moving forward into more complexity or more restriction. It's about remembering back to foundational simplicity.
And that's the final takeaway for you, the listener, to think about.
You don't need more conflicting information. You need less interference. You don't need a new, complicated diet. You need to return to real, nourishing food, prepared properly and eaten consistently. You have to trust your body's innate wisdom, which is rooted in these ancient, successful traditions.
Eat when you're hungry. Rest when you're tired. Enjoy your food without guilt. Share meals with people you love. Live in rhythm with the sun. This is the simple wisdom that sustained humanity.
And now you have the science to understand exactly why it worked. This knowledge is the foundation of the bioenergetic revolution, and we encourage you to keep exploring these principles and start noticing the difference in your own energy and your own resilience.
Your grandmother was right about all of it, and now you know why. We'll talk soon.